We'll start the chanting. You're recording? Okay. For sure? Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Just pause for a moment. Are you sure you're recording? Because normally I get a thing coming up here that says you're recording. Okay, good. So we start the chanting again, and then sorry about that, but I just wanted to make sure that we were recording. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutayambi buddham saranam gacchami. Dutayambi dhammam saranam gacchami. Dutayambi sangham saranam gacchami. Tatayambi buddham saranam gacchami. Tatayambi dhammam saranam gacchami. Tatayambi sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from their happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Kayata Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Tayataum gate gate parasamgate bodhi soha. Tayataum gate gate parasamgate bodhi soha. So now you can get yourself in a comfortable position. Be happy with yourself. Have no worries, mate, as we say in Australia. So I wrote an article, some of you may have seen, I posted it on Facebook, only an excerpt from it. I wrote it for the Daham Sarana Buddhist magazine, which was produced by a Sri Lankan temple here in Melbourne. And it was for the Vesak issue in 2015. And so no worries. I put a Buddhist spin on this saying, no worries, meaning, of course, to practice the Eightfold Path and therefore decrease worries, decrease your suffering, difficulties. We can actually do that here and now. Of course, we are experiencing some difficulties related to our body, our mind, and aspects of the mind and so forth. Always, this is related or as effects of our karma from previous times and also in this lifetime as well. But at this moment, if we give rise to worry, this is called extra stuff. It's what I call extra stuff. We're experiencing the difficult stuff already. Don't add to it by worrying or being anxious and so forth. Even in our meditation practice, don't put too much pressure on yourself to do well and things like this. So the other thing is mate. And the Buddhist spin I put on this word is actually the real meaning of mate, means like a partner or a friend, and like this, you know. So if we can look at this saying, no worries, mate, from a Buddhist perspective, practice the Eightfold Path and also practice the four immeasurables of love, compassion, empathy, or empathetic joy and equanimity. Okay, so now you can close your eyes, being in a comfortable position, not slouching, but also not being too rigid in your posture. And bring your mind initially to your body, starting at the feet, and release any tension you may have around your toes and balls of the feet, arches of the feet and the heels, the top of the feet, around your ankles and Achilles tendons, your lower leg, the calf muscles, and your shin areas, the front, sides, and back of your knees, and release from your upper leg. At the back, you have the hamstring muscles, and at the front, the quad muscles. Now bring your focus to release the tension from your midsection, the glute muscles, hip flexors, and the groin. And from your stomach, on and just above your hips and your lower back. Further up your stomach and sides, into the center of your back. From your chest area and underneath your arms and your upper back. On the outsides of your back, on both sides, you have the lateral muscles. Release the tension from them. And running between the shoulder blades and the spine, you have the rhomboid muscles. Release the tension from them. And also from the upper trap muscles that run between the neck and the shoulders, as well as your shoulders. And now release from your upper arms, the biceps and triceps, and your elbows and forearms, wrists, hands, fingers, and thumbs. Now bring your focus to your neck and release the tension from the front, sides, and back of your neck. From the back of your head, and around your ears and temples. Now bring your focus to your face and release any tension from around your cheekbones and cheeks. Make sure you're not clenching your jaw. From your chin and mouth, both inside and outside. Your nose, sinuses, eye sockets and eyes. And make sure you're not frowning on your forehead. And finally, release the tension from the crown of your head. Briefly now, release or scan your body from the top, from your toes to your fingers, to the top of your head, just to see if there's any residue tension that you can release. And when you are ready, gently bring your focus to initially the tip of your nose. And as usual, the object of the meditation is the breath, or the feeling of the breath as you breathe in and out. As you breathe in, the air is quite cool on the back of your throat. And as it enters the lungs, they expand. And then they compress as you breathe out, and the air being quite warm as it passes your throat on the way out your nose as you breathe out. This is all you have to do right now, is focus on your breath. Breathing in, breathing out. Whatever you have done in the past, whatever we have done together just now, it's gone, it's finished. Whatever you're planning for the future, let it go for this present time. Just focusing on your breath, allowing yourself to be in the present moment, the beautiful present moment, the bright present moment. If thoughts arise or any sort of feelings, emotions, don't cling to them, don't grasp at them. Also, don't try to forcefully push them away or deny them. Just let them come and go naturally by refocusing your mind on your breath. If you find yourself trying too hard, maybe your body's getting rigid or your mind becoming tense, then let it go. Calm yourself down by refocusing more calmly on your breath. If your mind becomes dull, focus more brightly on your breath. The practice of meditation is a constant process of readjustment, of course, until we develop one-pointed concentration. Now we will practice like this for a few minutes in silence. Most people, when they're meditating, close their eyes, I think. But there's also meditation and meditators that leave their eyes open. If you're having to leave your eyes open or decide to leave your eyes open, pick a spot, just like a meter or so in front of you. For instance, if you were having your eyes open during this session, pick a spot on the computer you're looking at and try your best to keep focus on that spot at the same time following your breath. During your breath meditation sessions, however long you do it for, maybe 20 minutes or however long, up to you. Every now and then you'll be able to maybe check your body that you're not tensing up, because we're habitual creatures, and quite often our tension that we have in the body is formed over maybe many years even. And so the body naturally starts to tense up after some time. If this is happening, just calmly bring your focus to it for a few moments and release that tension. And the same with the mind. The mind may start to become agitated on the one hand or dull on the other hand because of our habits. If we're experiencing this, then just take the moment to remind ourselves to refocus on the breath. Now you can feel very pleased with yourself that you've engaged, even though this is only maybe 3 or 4 minute meditation. Feel really happy with yourself. Be your best friend. Extend love and kindness to yourself. Fill yourself with love and kindness. Fill yourself with so much love and kindness that it overflows and gradually extends outwards further and further, like a tidal wave of love and kindness, firstly to your loved ones, family and friends. Wish that they are happy and free from suffering and that they're peaceful. Now also include those you may regard as strangers. May they be happy, free from suffering and peaceful. Now also include those you find difficult and may even regard as enemies. May all of these people have happiness and its causes, be free from suffering and its causes, and be peaceful. When we are peaceful, we tend to radiate this outwards to include others, just like a pebble in a pond. If you throw a pebble into the pond, the ripples go all over the pond. So the more you have good vibes and peaceful vibes, the more you're sharing this peacefulness around you. Now extend the loving kindness also to those other creatures that live around your area, whether they live on the land or under the land or in the waters, fly through the air, whether they were born from eggs or wombs, from moisture or transformation. May all of these living beings be happy and free from suffering. Gradually extend and radiate this love and kindness out further and further to include your state or county. And other states and counties, until this loving kindness pervades your whole country. And other countries, until the loving kindness pervades throughout the whole planet. May all living beings on this planet have happiness and the causes of happiness. And may they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May peace pervade everywhere. In fact, I should point out that even though there's many conflicts in our planet, there is still peace there. Just like empty space has many physical things flying through it. Same with the peace. The peace is always there. It's up to us to open up to it. Now extend this love and kindness throughout the whole solar system and other solar systems, throughout the whole galaxy and other galaxies, throughout the whole universe. May this loving kindness pervade throughout infinite space. Immeasurable loving kindness. No limit. Remind yourself that this loving kindness is coming from your own mind, your own heart, and rejoice in this fact. Now be present here and now, and we will recite the dedication prayer. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious bodhicitta not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of shunyata not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. So I remind you that bodhicitta, literally meaning awakened consciousness or awakened mind. This is the awakened altruistic intention, the great compassion that wishes to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings and also lead others to do likewise. In fact, it's wonderful if we can actually have others attain enlightenment before ourselves. This is really the Bodhisattva's spirit. And so even though we are not great bodhisattvas yet ourselves, but we can have this aspiration. And as we widen this aspiration, as it becomes more firm and more resolute, then our practice becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. Every action that we engage in then becomes virtuous action. And in fact, you could say there's a few different categories or types of this intention, this altruistic intention. And they can be likened to a shepherd, to a captain of a boat, and to a king, not in any specific order. The king, for instance, has to become a king before he can benefit the subjects of the kingdom. This is like a bodhisattva that attains full enlightenment of a Buddha and then leads living beings to attain this Buddhahood as well. Then, of course, you have a boatman or a boat captain. The boat arrives at the destination. The captain arrives at the destination the same time the boat. Something happened on the screen then. It's okay, I had no time to read it. The captain of the boat arrives at the same time as the passengers on the boat. So this is like a bodhisattva who attains enlightenment exactly the same time as the living beings that they are guiding attain enlightenment. And then, of course, you have the shepherd. The shepherd guides the sheep through the gate into the field before him. And so this is like a bodhisattva that leads the living beings to attain enlightenment before themselves. Now, there are some people that I've heard that think that this shepherd is the best one, but actually there's no best one. There's no discrimination between these different types of intention or aspirations, bodhicitta intentions. Actually, it depends. We're all different, you see. It depends on our character and so forth. And they're all equal. So I think I didn't go into too much detail with those expressions or those different details. But I think it maybe is something for you to, what I say, mentally chew on for yourself. And maybe you can let me know which you prefer. Maybe in text or something like that through Messenger, or even give us a call. And so then obviously Shunyata in that prayer or the verses that we recite for dedication, Shunyata means emptiness of self or emptiness of substantiality. And so this, if you think about it on a very simple level, even though it's a very deep and profound subject, on a simple level, how can anything be separate? Think about it like that. This hand, for instance, a thumb, 5 fingers. We attach to this one finger. I'm not going to put the second one up, by the way. I don't know if you get my joke. But that finger, we associate it as my finger, or as you would say, it's your finger. But actually, the finger is not separate from the hand. The hand is not separate from the forearm. Forearm not separate from the elbow, and upper arm, shoulders, the whole body. And so all phenomena is like this, all interconnected. But we associate it as separate, as a me versus others, as mine versus theirs. But this is not the case. I think if even on an obvious level, without going into it in too much depth, you can come to realize, of course, that's the way it is. Maybe I look out the window and maybe see a tree, but the tree is not separate from the dirt. Maybe you see the beautiful flowers, and actually the flowers are not separate from the rest of the plant and the dirt and the insect poo. Everything is interconnected, the compost, everything interconnected. But we associate then from this belief in a self, this ignorance of a belief in a self, separate self, we then develop this dualistic attitude or dualistic state of mind, also known as conceptual way of thinking, where we get attached to that we find pleasing and we have aversion to that we find unpleasant. So going back to that flower, you may see the flower and you may think it's so beautiful, but you don't like the dirt. But they're inseparable. The only difference here is how we discern them. I hope that makes some sort of sense. I think some of you were attending classes years ago. A few times I did this, and yeah, I said, what would you prefer, your favorite meal right now or a plate with poo on it? But actually they're all made up of the same thing. They're all made up of the earth, the fire, the water, the space, and the wind. All of these elements make up everything that's physical. So anyway, I thought I'd just explain those words again, even though we've done it before. So bodhicitta and shunyata, they are Sanskrit words, but also can be expressed in Pali, which is a derivative of the Sanskrit language. And because bodhicitta is the same in Pali as it is in Sanskrit, and shunyata maybe is pronounced, I think, something like sunyata or something like that. So there's not much difference, really. There's not much difference between these two languages that we use in Buddhism. So let's go to the subject. Okay, so we're speaking about meditation and the actual practice of meditation. Last week we spoke about the 5 faults to be relinquished. And so today we will talk about the 8 antidotes that are the means to relinquishing these faults. So the faults to be relinquished are laziness, which is not wishing to have a focus or cultivate this meditative stabilization or one-pointed concentration. So laziness, we don't really see the good qualities in it. Then there is forgetfulness, which is not remembering the object of the meditation, having a mind that's distracted all the time. And the third one is lethargy and excitement. Now, lethargy and excitement, when I'm giving the instruction for the breath meditation, I'm saying the overactive mind or the agitated mind. This is like the excitement that Buddha spoke about. And then, of course, we have the lethargy, which is like the dull mind. It's like a pendulum, and a clock. Tick, 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 tick. Our mind so often is habituated to behave like this. We're either really over the top or we're really dull, really overly bright, overly dull, overly busy, nothing. But what we want is that middle path. We want to develop this one-pointed concentration. With one-pointed concentration doesn't mean we're just focusing kind of like that. We're actually focusing like that, opening the mind totally by utilizing the object to focus on. And slowly, 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 the mind becomes more and more pure, more unconstrained by our habits, habitual tendencies, and so forth. The fourth one was non-application of the antidote. Of course, this occurs when we're either lethargic or excited, or the mind is excited. This occurs when it's like that. We're not applying the antidotes, which we'll go into in a moment. The other one is over-application. This is continuing to apply the antidotes even when we don't need to. We've already refocused on the breath, so this becomes a fault in our meditation practice. I think this can lead to very much sort of like a rigid mind. And so get rid of that piece of paper. So the antidotes, there are 4 antidotes to the laziness. We've spoken about these states of mind before when we were discussing the 51 derivative mental factors from the Abhidharma Kosha, or the House of High Knowledge. The first one is faith. This is having faith in the good qualities of mental stabilization, or one-pointed concentration, realizing the good qualities, which of course we spoke about as well when we were talking about the different absorptions, the different levels of absorption you go through as you practice meditation, as you start to purify initially the gross aspects of the mental afflictions, eventually starting to purify and uproot even the subtle aspects. And so you can, even if we don't experience that ourselves fully right now, then we can at least think about it from a conceptual point of view and think, yes, I want to be like that. Yes, who doesn't want total peace? Total lack of worry. Who doesn't want that? Of course we do. So there's a good quality in that. But the agitation, that's not a good quality. This is disturbing the mind. This is creating some difficulties and suffering. So you don't really want that, even though that's what most people chase after, thinking that it's actually pleasure. But it's not. Pleasure in the senses, in pleasuring the senses, seeing good things all the time, avoiding seeing things you don't find pleasant, hearing things you want to hear, trying to avoid hearing things you don't want to hear. Yeah, and it's likewise with all of the other senses. And anyway, so good qualities in the mental stabilization. This is having faith in that. And then the second one comes into play, which is aspiration again. And this is seeking now to attain these qualities. So let's say you think, oh, okay, through meditation practice, on a simple level, become more relaxed. I become more at peace with myself and everything around me and with other people as well. It helps me do that. That's the good qualities. Now you aspire to attain these good qualities. And you aspire as well to improve slowly, step by step, your meditation practice and your mental stabilization. Slowly improve this. And you aspire to do this. So aspiration is also, or the second of the antidotes for laziness. Then we also have effort. Effort, this is the delight in the practice. There's 2 aspects of the effort, like I mentioned. There is the enthusiasm aspect and the perseverance aspect. So now the enthusiasm, because we see the good qualities, because we perceive the good qualities in developing mental stabilization, then we seek to attain these good qualities ourselves. We have enthusiasm in making the effort and persevering to be able to do so. So this is delight in the practice. Then, of course, the effort gives rise to the fourth one, which is physical and mental pliancy. Having a flexible and pliant mind, being able to deal with anything that arises, whether the mind gets distracted, you don't get irritated with yourself, if it becomes dull, you don't become disappointed with yourself, you just apply the antidote. And so remember, these antidotes are taught by the Buddha. Okay, this is not made up since the Buddha's teachings were given. These are all teachings of the Buddha. The antidote for forgetfulness. I think if your mics are open, which you don't open them for the sake of the quality of sound, but I think you could, all of you could answer that one. What is the antidote for forgetfulness? What's mindfulness rather than mindlessness? So you practice mindfulness. Mindfulness has, you could say, an element of non-attachment as well. You're not grasping at something. You're not clinging to something. You're just being mindful. It's almost, you could say, it's like just observing without judging yourself or the object. So mindfulness is continual concentration on the object of meditation. In this sense, it's the breath. We're doing the breath meditation, which is probably the most common meditation done by Buddhist practitioners. The Buddha actually enumerated either 40 or 41 objects in the body and around the body that you can meditate on. But of course, we can meditate on other things too, outside, like elements, fire, water, the space element. In other words, you can meditate on the sky, maybe even with your eyes open. You can, relate it to wind, the feeling of the movement through the air. And also, what was the other one that I missed? Or solidity. Oh, did I mention that one already? The body. So, but anyway, there's many objects you can meditate on. We choose to meditate on the breath, which you can say is physical phenomenon, isn't it? Because it's the feeling of the breath as you breathe in is what you're meditating on. If you go deeper, then it's actually, you could almost say, the image of the breath in the mind itself. And then as you're meditating, the mind objects, all of the activities of the mind. When your mind becomes excited, you recognize it or you become aware of it, and then you bring your mind back to your breath. If your mind becomes dull, you be aware of it, bring the mind back to the breath. So I'm actually moving on to the next antidote here as well, which is awareness. And awareness is knowing that lethargy or mental dullness and excitement or mental agitation have arisen or are arising at that time. You recognize that, and then you apply the antidote to whatever it is. Let's say, for instance, it's mental agitation. Then you calm the mind down by refocusing on your breath or the object of meditation. And the same as with your mind becoming dull, you wake it up and more brightly focus on the object. And so that is the antidote for lethargy and excitement. And now the antidote to non-application, which is the fourth of the faults to be relinquished, is, and this is very simple sounding, is application. So non-application is overcome with application. It sounds so simple, but we don't have the habit of doing it. That's why the Buddha had to remind us of this. For some people, maybe it's the first time we've heard this in this lifetime. And it sounds so simple. Why don't I do this? Well, just start doing it now. The past is gone, future not here. Just do it now. And so engaging in the antidotes to lethargy and excitement, that is the antidote to non-application, which is application. Then, of course, number 8 of the antidotes is the antidote to over-application. I think you can guess what that is, ceasing application. So if you are, for instance, let's say, for instance, you're a bit like your mind is lazy, you're being lazy. And so the first of those antidotes for laziness is faith, having faith in the goodness of the practice, for instance. And then you continue to have that, you continue to focus on that, but actually you've already done it. So now you can let it go and just focus on the object of the meditation. And so that is ceasing or relaxing one's effort, in other words. Because if we try all the time, this can create some sort of stress, some sort of, we don't want that, You never want to be over applying antidotes and never want to be under applying the antidotes, or not applying at all the antidotes. Then, of course, through applying these antidotes, the 5 faults are gradually eliminated. Wouldn't that be? Are you looking forward to that or what? Think about it. As we apply these antidotes to the faults to be relinquished in our meditation practice, they slowly, we relinquish them in that moment, and the habit of having these habitual tendencies starts to decrease, starts to be relinquished, eventually to be eliminated. It's possible to do this. And even when you're having difficult meditations, whether it's related to having an overexcited mind or agitated mind, or whether it's a sleepy or a dull or a lethargic mind, just remind yourself that we can focus, even if we only do it, even in those difficult meditations, for whatever reason you're experiencing them for. You experience it even just for 1 second. You have that ability already. You don't have to go and buy it in the supermarket. You don't have to go and stimulate your senses somehow by going outside or even doing something in your house or temple or whatever. You don't have to do anything else. It's there with you already. You just have to work inside with yourself, with your own mind, and then step by step improve this. I think you can understand that very clearly. It's the same to be said if we move on to briefly mention Vipassana, which is penetrative insight meditation, which helps us to become really, really wise, to perceive things as they really are. We already have that ability. We have the ability to discern things, discern right from wrong, discern what is real from what is not real. We don't know everything yet, but we have the ability to do that already. So it's not as if, like the Buddha, in one sense, you can say the Buddha, when he started to give the teaching, he did express things probably never heard in, we could say, the world at that time. We could say that. But also, he's not expressing things and teaching us something that we don't have already. So on both sides, always remind yourself of that, especially if you become a bit discouraged in your practice. And so through applying these antidotes to the 5 faults, they are gradually eliminated, and one passes through what we call the 9 states of concentration, which is going to be the subject for next week. So there are nine different levels of meditation practice until we get to that point where we're able to focus one-pointedly on the object without distraction, without anything like that. Now, I've just realized that it's about, I think the class has gone about 10 minutes over what it normally would. And so I don't know what the Zoom people are doing, but we're not going to complain about that, are we? So, I mean, I was looking at the clock before, trying to look for my countdown bit, which comes up in the middle of the screen there, and it hasn't been there. So I decided to continue going on with that. So we'll talk for a couple more minutes and just encourage you to continue to practice. Obviously, today we don't have a lot of people participating today. Normally we have, I think, anywhere between, including the couples that come on, with the one camera, probably anywhere between 11 and 20 people, I think, that participate with us weekly, but for some reason, not many today. I have had some communication with some regular students in Australia who, through the Christmas time, haven't been able to, it hasn't been convenient for them to participate with us, related to family commitments and so forth. Remembering, especially in Melbourne, that we were locked down for, I think, about 4 months. So some people may be taking the opportunity while there is no or very little spread of the virus here, and the restrictions are eased to a certain extent. And so they said to say hello and apologize they haven't participated with us. There are other students as well that haven't participated much at all, which is a bit, you could say, disappointing, even though I'm not disappointed. I'm confident that these students, they practice Dharma well and, in time. I think they're looking forward to doing face-to-face classes again sometime soon. But in saying that, not to be pessimistic, but I don't think that we're going to be doing face-to-face classes for a little bit of time still. I'd like to see everybody. I'd like to be able to have this interaction back and forth, which we will have in the coming weeks. Once Leanne gets a bit more used to doing this as a backup, then we will implement that second class, which will be Q&A. I think the sound's a little bit strange when you do that, but it'll be okay as long as we're patient. And the one person speaks at a time, one question at a time, then the answer. And, we still can't have it like we would have face-to-face classes where there can be back and forth, and, but so that's what, so we will do that, obviously. Part of the reason for not doing the classes face-to-face is because the temple we use as well. I know that the Tuan monastery there that we do the classes at, they are not running full, as all of the religious establishments are not doing so, or at least the Buddhist ones are very mindful in Buddhism to not go over the top with this, even if the restrictions are eased a bit. So, from my heart to the Tuan monastery, I want them to utilize facilities, whatever restrictions are, for their benefit. And we have to be very patient and just do this online for the moment. Okay. But Hanukkah, you couldn't attend in face-to-face anyway. So very expensive to come to Australia, and you wouldn't be allowed in the country right now anyway, or allowed to leave Britain. And also the same, he's not participating today, but Ashen, the monk from Myanmar as well, he's expressed that he would like to get some teachings, from me face to face, whether that's here or in Myanmar or whatever. But it's not possible for us to do that at present. We need to be really mindful that this is, if it appears, at least for a few hundred years, that this is, once in 100-year global pandemic. It seems to happen about once every 100 years. And this is due to the negative karma of the living beings on this planet. We, unfortunately, I don't mean to be putting a negative light on it, but we tend to be very selfish and greedy. And so this type of behavior, or this type of mental states, tend to lead, if done collectively, which is what happens, then we tend to experience these types of things. You could say metaphorically, it's almost like the planet is fighting back, saying, stop this nonsense, Now, I'll go back a little bit before. I mentioned the flower, and I mentioned the dirt and so forth, everything interconnected. I'll just share something with you that, first of all, so often you can have the same object that we are perceiving with our mind, or seeing, or hearing, or smelling, tasting, touching, so forth. The same object, that we tend to look at the faults in that object. If we have some sort of aversion, or even if we tend to be the people who are very skeptical like that, we tend to look for the faults in that object. And if we're attached to it, if we find that, I love this object, then we tend to just amplify or exaggerate the good qualities of that. But there's the good qualities and the faults in everything. There's the opposite. In this world where we have the dualistic thinking, there's always, you'd say, the other side of the coin, isn't there? And I'd share an experience with you in the temple in California many years ago. We had a lot of children used to come. Saturday afternoons, I used to teach 3 classes. One was the children's class, which a lot of the time, actually, after some time, the teenagers used to teach, and I used to sit with them as I did that. And then we had the beginners class, which was also like the teenage class. And then we had more of an intermediate to advanced class later on. And we had the kids used to stay, a lot of them used to stay at the temple all day. And we really wanted them to be there because it's really good for their mind and helps their parents out as well, as they may be working and things. So the kids were, you know, playing around, maybe kicking a soccer ball or something like that around. And unfortunately, were trampling on some of the seedlings at one stage in the veggie garden area. But we didn't want to discourage them from playing. So there were some bricks behind the temple that were left over from obviously years earlier when the temple was established. And so we decided that we were going to build a small partition with these bricks. And so we did that. And it took, like, none of us had experience for this before. We put, you know, did the cement or the mortar, and we had the bricks, and we, you know, it was probably only about maybe 3-4 feet high, maybe, yeah, probably that, maybe 3 to 4 feet high, and maybe something like 10 meters long, something like that. And anyway, we did a really good job. And then I stood back after we'd finished it, and it took like a long time. And I noticed in the area that I did, there was one brick that was crooked. Like the mortar was kind of thin here and really thick on that side of it, and vice versa on the bottom. And I really thought, oh no, it's like everybody did a great job, but I did a terrible job in that brick. But in reality, the wall, or the partition really, is not really a wall, was still there. It was sturdy, and it had the effect. It functioned as we wanted it to, because it helped to stop the kids from running onto the veggie garden area. So it seemed for months after that, every time I walked past that little partition, the only thing I saw was that brick. And I realized this is interesting, because actually the rest of the wall was just fine. So in life, we tend to do this a lot. We tend to focus on the negativities, whether it's related to ourselves, whether it's related to things around us or other people around us. We tend to see their faults before we see their good qualities, unless we have attachment to them, when then it's vice versa a lot of the time. So I just wanted to point that out. It's funny, many years later, I was given a book. I can't remember who actually gave it to me. I'm actually thinking it was you, Mahendra. It was Ajahn Brahm's book. And I can't remember the name of it now, but it was about meditation. And he had a similar story when he was putting together his temple in West Australia. There was a similar thing, type of thing happened when they were helping, like, building things. So I thought, oh, it's very funny. I had that experience. Now, of course, some of you, including Mahendra, Nelon, and maybe Leanne as well, and Maureen, Dave for sure, because they've been probably the longest time I've had students in Australia. And you know, I've shared that story with you before, I'm sure. So I hope I don't bore you with that story today. Anyway, we've had an hour class, so you know, nice little surprise for everyone. Hopefully it doesn't eat into the Australian dinner time. I myself will go for a walk very soon after I make a couple of phone calls after the class. Take care. Practice or study, practice, and share the Dharma to the best of your abilities. And as you do this step by step, breath by breath, it will improve and improve and improve. And I want you to attain enlightenment before me. But if you do, don't forget me. Help me. Okay? Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya.